Guys, so this is Jack. This is this week's video. Sorry if there's noise. The television is ending Desperate Housewives, and then I'm not sure exactly what the neighbors are doing next door with something very, very loud at 10 a.m. But yeah. Anyway, okay, so this week's topic is patience. Um, and I actually have a lot of thoughts about that. The first part for it was how to stay patient pre-T, pre-op. Um, what I've found personally the most helpful for that is to make the changes you can now, like a social transition if possible. Getting people to use the correct name and pronouns for you, regardless of if you've medically transitioned or not, or if you want to. Um, Name changes where possible, like in California, I know now that you don't have to have surgery to change your name or gender on your social security card. You just need to have a doctor write off that you've transitioned enough for you, which might be, which might not be anything at all medically at this point, or ever if you want that. And then surrounding yourself with supportive and respectful people and is another good thing that you can do pre-T or pre-op. So surrounding yourself by people who affirm your identity and respect it, but like regardless of where you are in your transition, a lot of times that you can find that through LGBT group type stuff, people who are at least supportive. Not 100% though. I have dealt with some negativity from the LGBT part of the community at times. And then another thing you can do is put yourself in therapy. That helps me deal, or it helped me deal a lot with being pre-T. That because I had someone to talk to about it and who would point out that I wasn't crazy for feeling the things that I was, and she would help me figure out ways to help with it. Activism also helps pre-T, pre-op because I'm pre-op, for example, but several of the people in my group are not. Some of them are on T and post-op surgery, and I know a couple guys who are starting to work and look into bottom surgery, work on that. So but being an activist and helping other people helps in the sense that you can see that there are other people who are not even as fortunate as you are, regardless of where you are in your transition. And it just helps to be able to talk with people about the same topics, and because you can all connect on transitioning type stuff. Let's see. The other thing that helps with dysphoria pre-T pre-op is staying as involved with your own process as possible. So, like, if you're pushing for hormones through a doctor but you haven't got them yet, pushing the doctor, making sure they stay with it, making sure they don't ignore what you need or drop the case or anything. Basically, if you can see yourself working through the process, it helps you to be able to track it, and then you can see that you're actually getting somewhere so it doesn't feel as hopeless. Oh, and then another thing for pre-T pre-op, don't get too ahead of yourself, like looking into surgeons and whatnot, unless you know that doing that won't make your dysphoria worse. Because I found for myself that when I started looking into surgeons for top surgery, sometimes now, if like, well, it used to be helpful for a while. Now that it's on the table, but not for God knows how long because of my insurance company, I don't look at surgeon stuff as much because it makes my dysphoria worse because it reminds me that I don't have it. So as long as you're sure that looking into transition stuff does not make your dysphoria worse, that's cool, that's fine. But if it sometimes makes you feel worse about yourself, then don't. I would not go into that kind of stuff, at least at this point. Patience in relation to not rushing your transition. Benefits of that are, for one, safety. We talked about health while transitioning last week, actually. Benefits of transitioning safely and healthily. By not rushing your transition, you can also make sure that you get the results you want. For example, if you go to a surgeon who doesn't necessarily do very good work, but you just want them now, you might not get the same post-op results that you would get if you'd waited and gone to a surgeon later, a different one, more skilled one, whatever. And another reason not to rush and to be patient with your transition is you can make sure of the decisions before jumping into them. It helps you educate yourself to make the best possible decisions for you. For example, I know some guys who chose to have surgery first because they knew they wanted surgery, but they didn't know if they wanted hormones, and they didn't want to push themselves for that. I know some people who are doing social transitions, but not necessarily going to be doing hormones yet because they want to be sure of themselves. You can do natural transitioning to see if That can help with your dysphoria. Basically, not rushing your transition allows you to test things out every step of the way to make sure that you want this and that you need it and that you're okay with it. For example, I wasn't sure necessarily about all of the changes on hormone therapy for a while, so I did natural transitioning until I decided that I was okay with and I did want all the changes that came along with and the side effects that came along with going on T. However, I started my hormone therapy at a very low dose and increased it gradually, like which you're technically supposed to do. Um, but it helped me because then the changes were slower, so I could watch them and see gradually if I was okay with them or not. And then if I wanted to stop hormones, I could stop them. Sorry about my shoulders; they're really angry right now and today. Um, okay, almost, and I promise. Patience in relation to other parts of your transition, like relationships, for example. There's a lot of pressure for relationships in this community, I've noticed, as a source of validation. Like, this person validates me as a man, and that's not exactly healthy. That can lead to codependency and relying on someone else for your self esteem. So, honestly, you need to be okay with yourself before you can be in a relationship. So, don't push yourself to have someone, even though I know it's a struggle. I mean, like, I'm single, but it helped by not by being patient about relationships. You can be sure that you don't end up with a partner who ends up making things worse. Like, for example, my ex-fiance made my transition hell because they did not validate my identity, and they ended up leaving me because they didn't see me as a male or a female, probably because I was in the first months of my transition. So basically, you can transition without a partner's support, and I'm proof of that. So be patient and don't rush into a relationship that might end up hurting you in the end. Patience in relation to getting people to accept you. Family, a lot of the time, feels like they're losing their daughter or niece, whatever. They don't understand that just because you're changing on the outside doesn't mean that, or changing words, doesn't mean that you're a completely different person. You're still the same person you've always been. You're just a happier, more complete version of you. But people don't always understand that. They think that you're being completely replaced with some new male person, which isn't true, but they don't exactly get that. So it takes them a little while to understand it. So give people time. And patience with getting others to respect you. Again, give people time. Basically, you need to be sure of yourself and be able to help validate yourself because you're going to face struggles with getting other people to support who you are. When you're able to validate yourself until you're like, regardless of what else, if someone is misgendering you or your parents aren't able to use the right name yet, if you're able to validate yourself, it helps a lot with patience while you're waiting for others to get to that point as well, because then you don't need the validation of other people. You can affirm yourself. And that took forever for me. Basically, what I did for myself is I acted as the ideal me, I guess. I told myself, would Jack do this? Kind of like the what would Jesus do? What would Jack do? But, and I acted like the ideal form of me, which is who I am now. So, because I wasn't acting like a completely different person, I was just acting like myself. And that helped me to validate myself because I realized I was acting as I wanted to be anyway. So sorry that this is long, and it was kind of a long topic. So I guess that's this week's video. See you next week.